Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'm going to ask, is there any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor, staff would ask that under executive session, a second executive session be added for discussions relating to preliminary acquisition of real property.
Okay, anything else?
That is all for us.
Duly noted, and we'll begin on our agenda this evening. And the first thing I'm going to ask for is the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further comments or questions regarding the consent agenda, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for August 24th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you, council. Are we reviewing tonight, Ethan?
Yeah.
That's for you, Jamie.
A motion by Councilmember Wallace to approve the consent agenda for August 24th, 2020, seconded by Councilmember Campbell.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of the consent agenda passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is public forum. Looking out, there's nobody but the normal faces here, so nobody wants to address the council tonight, so we'll close the public forum section. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we're going to move on to the next section, which is new business. And the first item is consideration of a check to Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a check to Ed Campbell for a maintenance of golf course only sign that was installed out at Wedgewood Golf Course in the amount of $30.
There's no questions. I'd make a motion to approve the check 116,618 and the amount of $30 to Ed Campbell for the 12/18 sign that states maintenance of golf course only.
Got the motion and the second. We'll go to Jamie for the review.
Motion by Councilmember Farmer to approve the check number 116618 in the amount of $30 to Ed Campbell for a 12x12 sign or 12x18 sign that states maintenance and golf carts only, seconded by Councilmember Clausen.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that passes.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome, man.
You're welcome, man.
Don't go spend it all in one place.
Next item under new business is consideration of ordinance number 1305. It has to do with water rates. We'll turn that over to Ethan for an explanation.
Thank you. Council aware for quite some time, the city of Halstead has periodically adopted basically 5-year planning for rates. 2020 was actually our scheduled year to move that cycle again after evaluating where the water fund was at and anticipated expenditures. We did not request an increase, but as we continue to look and take into consideration items of the system, especially those relating to Public Wholesale Water Supply District 17, are nearing the end of their age and life cycle, we feel it's prudent to once again begin that cycle of water rates. And historically, we have done minimal increases throughout the year as opposed to one giant lump sum to get us where we need to be. You can see in the report that was in your packet that basically for the average home in Halstead with consumption of about 4,200 gallons, the new rates being proposed that would go into effect in 2021 would see an increase of about $2.66 on a monthly bill. I will note that the rate structure being proposed does see an increase of about 2% to the minimum, that base rate of 1,500 gallons or less, moving it from 2250 to 23, and then overage increase at a rate of about 3% per year for the next 5 years. The agenda memo does explain that this is obviously a plan, and we do look at these every year to make sure that they're continuing to meet the current and future needs of our water utility. So if we find out, after installation of AMI, that we did indeed have a more slow meters than we thought, where we're making up that lost revenue, there is a possibility we can come back to the council and have an ordinance that would keep water rate stable, or if the reverse is true and we get into some unanticipated expenditures that would really tax, we might have to come and advance the rate this is going. So again, we didn't raise last year, but we feel to push that to 2 years is probably going to be more detrimental than positive. So we're seeking rate increases starting in 2021 again.
Any questions, council? I would entertain a motion to pass this ordinance then.
Hearing none, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 1305, affecting water rates for the next 5 years.
Second. Got a motion and a second. We'll go to Jamie for the review.
Motion by Councilmember Campbell to approve ordinance number 1305, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 1249, amending Chapter 15, Article 2, Water, Code of the City of Halstead, Kansas, amending Section 15229 rates and repealing existing Section 15229 and authorizing the mayor to sign. Seconded by Councilmember Wallace.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion carries unanimously. Now, on the backside of that, it looks like we have a consideration for an ordinance for the wastewater rates at the same time. So you can explain that to us a little bit.
Thank you. This is pretty much going to be part and parcel with the water rates. As wastewater is a symbiotic system, if you will, to our water. This would see that consumption charges remain the same as far as gallonage, but those are increasing about 3% per year for the next 5 years. Starting in 2021, again, the average household in Halstead would see around a 90-cent increase in that monthly wastewater fee going forward. But again, as we anticipate the needed upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, and just the age of the system, staying on top of those and not getting behind. We feel it's prudent to keep those wastewater rates being reviewed and increasing slightly.
Any questions, council?
So based on minimum rates between water and wastewater, we're looking at an average of $2.90 a month increase, roughly.
350 if you
$3.50,
yeah.
which is pretty minimal.
Yeah, I think over the years, the council has done a pretty good job being proactive in making those minimum adjustments. So I remember being involved in that years ago. It's kept us from having to do a big lump sum raise on those rates. It's pretty prudent to stay on that mission.
If there's no questions or comments, I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 1306, ordinance repealing ordinance number 1257, amending Chapter 15, Article 4 sewers of the Code of the City of Halstead, Kansas, setting the meter charge and surcharge rates, repealing the existing Section 15-436.
Second.
Now the motion and second, we'll go to Jamie for the review.
Motion by Councilmember Farmer to approve ordinance number 1306, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 1257, amending Chapter 15, Article 4 sewers of the Code of the City of Halstead, Kansas, setting user charge and surcharge rates, and repealing existing Section 15436, and authorize the mayor to sign. Seconded by Councilmember Campbell.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously as well. Next item under new business is consideration of the Safe Route to School Phase 1 request for qualifications. And Ethan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and appreciate you extrapolating out that acronym for us. As the council knows, we're approved for a Phase 1 a grant from Kansas Department of Transportation. It's actually a federal grant that's passed through. That requires the city to do a request for qualification for applicable contractors to help the city develop the SRTS Phase 1, which puts a plan together. That plan is then used to facilitate and inform a Phase 2 application, which would actually be for infrastructure improvements or greater activities than just this planning phase. As you can see in the RFQ document, It does call for a committee to be formed that would evaluate the requests for qualifications that do come in, which include someone from USD 440, one or two from USD 440. Hardin County Health Department is going to have a representative on there. The Kansas Learning Center for Health would have a representative or two. We left it open of either the mayor or city council member would like to serve on that. We'll have Chief Orem representing local law enforcement, myself, and then I'm also seeking some large member, either parents or members of the PTA, and they will make recommendations back to the council. They RFQ that they feel is best suited, that you all will then decide to move us forward. We looked at the KDOT list of contractors, and you can see in there were 8 in the immediate area that we figured we would to try and get as much response as possible, send out to those 8 that were all minimally far away from where we are here in Halstead. We have already got some requests from some additional companies, so we'll send that out and advertise on the city website as well. The nice thing is this is somewhat informed by the Max Grant Award and all that, so the cost we feel should very much fall into our expectations. There is that note of the grant does max out at a $12,000 match, so if, for instance, the RFQ that is selected would be more than that 12, the city is in charge of anything above and beyond that, but we do have that option. I don't have to necessarily take just the lowest bid. So, but I would gladly answer any questions or send the standard RFQ, and we'll get this out. And the timeline it has would have us hopefully have a final product in hand in time to give us about 60 days to put together that phase 2, and the contractor who would be awarded the RFQ, part of their scope of services in this is to help us put together that phase 2 applications.
One comment on the committee that would be formed. I think someone or a couple of people from the strategic planning committee should be considered to be on that, because I know that there was extensive conversation and study in reference to the sidewalk program. And that knowledge might be pretty valuable to within that group.
Certainly do that.
Well, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the request for qualification for safe routes to school phase 1 planning and authorization for the formation of an ad hoc committee to evaluate responses to the RFQ to bring back a recommendation to the full governing body.
Heard the motion and second, we'll go to Jamie for the review.
Motion by Councilmember Wallace to approve the request for qualification for Safe Routes to School Phase 1 planning and authorization for the formation of an ad hoc committee to evaluate responses to the RFQ to bring back a recommendation to the full governing body. Seconded by Councilmember Clausen.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously and finishes up the new business section of our agenda. We do have 2 executive sessions this evening, and I'll entertain the motion for the first one now.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss duties of a city of Halstead employee pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel, exception KSA 75-4319 B1. To include governing body. How about city manager? City clerk? No, city manager. Open meeting to reconvene at 7:30.
Second.
Got the motion and the second, and hopefully Jamie can run us through that.
Motion by Councilmember Campbell to move the Halstead City Council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss duties of a City of Halstead employee pursuant to the personnel matters of a non-elected personnel exception KSA 4319B1, and ask that in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager, with the open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chamber at 7:30 PM. Seconded by Councilmember Wallace.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We are moving to executive session. I'll go ahead and move to the. Ready, Pat? All right, we're back from our first executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of? Seeing no movement from the council, I ask for the motion for the second executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that city council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss potential real estate purchase. Pursuant to preliminary discussions relating to the acquisition of real property, exception KSA 75-4319 B6, to include governing body and city manager. Open meeting to resume at 7:50.
Second.
Have the motion and the second. We'll go to Jamie for the review.
Motion by Councilmember Campbell to move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss potential real estate purchase pursuant to the preliminary discussions relating to the acquisition of real property, exception KSA 75-4319 B6, and ask that in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager, with open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chamber at 7:50 PM. Seconded by Councilmember Wallace.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We are in executive session number 2. Get that?
Yes.
We are back from our second executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of it? Seeing no movement from the council, we will move on to the report section. And the first item is the governing body report tonight. I will start with Ed.
I have nothing, so.
Mike. Sam. And Denise. The only thing I'll add is Mr. Torres is not with us tonight because he got married this weekend, so we wish him all the congratulations with that. And now we'll move on to the manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Administration and finance staff have continued their work with Halstead's Complete Count Committee to continue getting Halstead residents to fill out the 2020 census. Halstead is right at 73%, meaning potentially 1 out of 4 people are still not being counted, or at least 1 out of 4 households. So we encourage everyone that has not done so to fill out their census. It only takes about 10 minutes or less, and can be done via phone, online, or by mail. I know our staff here at City Hall is willing to assist. We actually did so today, assisted someone getting their census completed. So if you have questions, the library is also helping people. So just come and let us know, and please fill out your census. It is extremely important. Census workers are currently also in our area doing home visits, and one of the easiest ways to avoid them knocking on your doors to fill out your census. Staff have also submitted the 2021 budget to the county clerk in line with state statutes, and staff continues to work on reorganization of duties for administrative staff and learning on the transition to the AMI system for meter reading. Public Works have finished placing the rest of the refinished entrance signs in their new locations around town. Staff have completed the work on the storm sewer on 3rd and Poplar, and the alley has been reopened. Some vegetation management was addressed behind 204 Main, as well as mowing around town in relation to code violations that were not corrected per the established timelines. Staff has worked on debris cleanup along 36th Street, replacement of 2 water services and spraying for mosquitoes. Painting continues on fire hydrants around town as well as curbs. And staff were involved with helping assemble tables at the Kansas Learning Center for Health and the new covered outdoor area. Staff were also busy with the Kansas Corporation Commission, the KCC audit last week for the gas system, and the AMI contractors have completed about half of the register installs for the gas system at this point. EMS has run 376 calls year to date, with 18 since our last meeting. EMS staff continue to work on several projects, such as updated quality assurance and community CPR program that they'll be partnering with the Kansas Learning Center for Health on. Preventative maintenance and certification has been performed on all of our cardiac monitors as well. Medic 22, which was our newest unit that we transitioned over from Sedgwick, was taken out of service temporarily due to a small fire due to the failure of the AC compressor and wiring while on the call. Happy to report that there were no injuries to staff, no delay in patient care from this incident, and that issue has since been repaired. 22 continues to remain out of service while it has an alignment issue addressed as well, but I was informed by Director Lowe just before the meeting that 22 is back in service. So, fires run 19 calls for the month, including EMS assists. Fire staff have been performing apparatus checks and testing, as well as preventative maintenance and pump tests on the apparatus. Chiefs Van Scoyk and Hoffman also continue to work with neighboring agencies and looking at scheduling for fire-related classes for the fall. Staff has coordinated maintenance on the backup generator for City Hall and Fire EMS station. Police has performed 21 traffic stops, 10 cases, and answered 57 calls for service this month. Police staff continue working with K-Camp, our insurance provider, on a new system that will help keep policies and procedures up to date for the department. Police command staff are also involved in interviews for the public safety court clerk position with a candidate currently in the pre-employment testing phase to hopefully begin in the coming weeks. Parks and Recreation continues mowing and green space maintenance around the ball diamonds and pool area, as well as continued operation and maintenance of the swimming pool with the extended season. Staff have addressed some overgrown sidewalks along 6th Street to re-expose the concrete. Work was also done on the Little Diamond, working in additional red shale and dragging the playing surfaces. Volleyball signups have ended, so work has been done putting teams together and getting practice schedules arranged. And finally, Parks and Rec staff did assist Public Works and the KLCH staff on the assembly of those picnic tables. Wedgewood Golf Course has hosted 10 league play events and 1 tournament. Staff continues to move rock in the parking lot to fill in low areas that have emerged following the placement of the new rock in the parking area. And does that in addition to their normal activities of mowing, seeding, fertilizing, treating, and maintenance around the course. Staff continues to plan for some upcoming tournaments in September and October, as well as potentially 2 cross-country events. And in addition to participating in some of the previously mentioned departmental activities and work items that were on the agenda this evening, I've attended several meetings over the past couple of weeks, including the KMGA Executive Committee meeting, Harvey County Council of Governments, Halstead Chamber of Commerce, and the League Policy Committee on Taxation and Finance to help update that statement of municipal policy that LKM puts out annually. I also met with the developers for Cedar Meadow Second, Red Fox Estates, communicated with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on the upcoming levee inspection, communicated with the structural engineer and a contractor on 204 Main, and communicated with engineer Foraker on a couple of ongoing city projects. That's all I have this evening for our activity as.
Anybody have any questions for Ethan regarding his report?
I just wonder what he does in his spare time.
Okay, Ron.
Just had one question, and the things we talked about on sidewalks, staff will work on them. Why is that not the responsibility of the homeowner? That couldn't and shouldn't that fall under the same criteria as grass being maintained in the yard?
We could run it that way. Honestly, we feel it's easy and we have the equipment to do. When the problem was noticed, it just with having the necessary equipment on hand, easier for us to clean it up than if we send them a letter, it puts them on the timeline and follow up.
So could we clean it up with a letter to the property owners that they maintain it from that point? Just like we did back in the alleys?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely send that out as a,
Anybody agree with that, or?
so whatever policy direction you all would like to take.
Because some people along 6th Street keep their sidewalk just absolutely immaculate. But then you go to half a city block that it just hasn't been touched or trimmed for years. That's negligence. My thought. Right?
Any other questions this evening from the council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved. Would like to review that, Jamie?
Motion by Councilmember Wallace to adjourn the Halstead City Council at 7:59 PM, seconded by Councilmember Clausen.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council. Thank you all.